My name is Josephine Bensa. I am a second-year transfer student, and I'm in the diagnostic medical sonography program. I've learned so much, and it's so hard to pinpoint and give a short summary on it. So it was I learned that I suck at kayaking when I went kayaking, but I learned a lot about water and water sustainability and water issues that we're having currently. But still on the question, I really learned so much that I want to shift it towards what I've gained out of momentum, or what momentum has brought to me. And I think momentum was a very informal class, but not really a class. It was a series of workshops that were super engaging and interactive, that you're able to gain more out of it, because it wasn't a person standing in front of you lecturing on and on for hours just talking and you're just zoning out. It was more about different speakers coming in, and even the momentum leaders, them actually sharing their passions and what they're super into, climate change. I knew a little bit about climate change, but I was shied away from it because I was from a political point of view, but they put it in a way that made me want to actually get up and be okay, I'm a future citizen of this country, and I have to do something about it. So I think the structure of momentum made it very impactful and made me think about what I can do as a future healthcare professional and as just a regular citizen, pretty much. So I learned a lot and I gained a lot, pretty much. So, yeah. When I was looking at the SDGs that we have, the Sustainability Development Goals, a lot of them really resonated with me because I can see issues around them everywhere that I go. And I remember one time when we were having one of our workshops, Enid mentioned that in order to address all those problems, we have to get to the root of those problems. And I feel all those problems are roots of their own. But the one that I feel most passionate about and I feel connects to all the other goals are the good health and well-being goal. I think that's very important, especially when we talk about a future generation, because we don't want to be bringing a generation into the world that lacks in health, because without vitality, they're not going to be able to make an impact and be passionate about doing other things. They're going to be stuck in the hospital, getting treatment for other issues that limits their potential. And the loss of potential is something that I think needs to be addressed, especially in the healthcare world. So that was the goal that resonated with me and connected, good health and well-being connected to zero hunger, because hunger, health relate, poverty and health relate. So yeah. So we actually just recently talked about this, and I was wow, that is something I need to do. It's pretty much building relationships and influencing other people. I feel a community is an area that you have other people in that same area. If you're not united and influencing each other to grow and learn more, there's no community. And I think a community is a team, and there's no I in team. So not one single person can get up and say, I'm going to transform my community. So I think being able to build a relationship with other people around you is very, a very influencing way to get up and say, we see an issue that needs to be addressed. And I think that's something that I definitely want to work on during my career here at RIT, because I feel the more that I have the opportunity to get up and go out and do stuff with other people, the more I'm able to learn about my community. Going to the Gandhi Institute, I didn't know they had a community garden over there, and community gardens are very amazing things. So it was just super remarkable just to learn about them and what they do, and having food come over and give us volunteer activities, so volunteer events that we could work on as a team. Was just wow, if I wasn't there in momentum and building relationships with other people, I wouldn't have known about the different events and things around me. So yeah. So as a future healthcare professional, I'm in the diagnostic medical sonography program, and I want to kind of focus on obstetrics and prenatal and postnatal care. And I think, I mentioned, the need for good health and well-being is very important, especially when we're talking about babies and maybe kids and places that are full of minorities that don't have the necessary resources to seek active health care to maintain their pregnancies and help their future babies develop is very important. So I think working in prenatal and postnatal care is very significant, because I will be able to help build the future generation and build them in a manner where they have good vitality, so that when they're out there and into the world and grow, and they have the ability to keep on pushing, because you can't build a future without a good foundation. And I think healthy kids are a very good foundation to start off with, because without healthy kids, there's nobody else that's gonna do it. We're gonna be old, and there's nothing that can be done at that point. So I think helping to build a foundation in prenatal and postnatal care is very important, because kids are our foundation. We are our foundation. So yeah. All the above, is that an option? I would say future focus because momentum is like something that I knew I was seeking, but I didn't know it existed. And I think the conversations and the different workshops and different events that we had were necessary events that like need to be like everywhere in every establishment, in every different college, because those conversations are like conversations that a lot of people shy away from, but they're very necessary. Like conversations about climate change, you don't really get that a lot in different areas. And climate change is something that's happening and very impactful, like Puerto Rico right now, Italy right now, almost underwater, and it's just like things like that are happening that like we're just like, oh, okay, we're gonna send them money, we're gonna send them resources, but that doesn't really fix the problem long term. So I feel like momentum is very future focused because by giving us the tools and the skills to like address problems like climate change and like how to deal with different things, just leadership skills and like different sets of skills helps us push us forward and builds up our, I guess it gives us momentum in a way because it's an impulse. It's an impulse that pushes us to be future leaders and to be future change makers and yeah, just be good change makers and like agents of positive change and social good. So yeah.